The chandelier light hit the silverware so sharply it felt like glass cracking. My father didn't raise his eyes when he said it. "The money is gone, Victoria." My mother's smile tightened, practiced, almost pleased. "We've transferred everything to Marcus's family. You should have been more supportive of our new home." Conversations around the table faded, replaced by a hum I felt in my teeth. Plates stopped. Chairs stilled. No one looked at me. I set my water glass down gently, the sound louder than their announcement. Then I breathed once steady and said only, "That's interesting," because they had no idea what they'd just triggered. I grew up in a house where silence did more work than any spoken rule. My parents never said Marcus was the favored one. They didn't have to. It showed in the way my mother's hand rested lightly on his shoulder at every gathering, guiding him forward while mine hung at my side empty. It showed in the birthdays, his with catered trays and a rented magician mine with a store-bought cake and a candle that leaned sideways. No one noticed. I learned early to make myself useful. When a payment notice arrived by mistake, I was the one who sorted it into the drawer without asking whose bill it was. When Marcus forgot to submit a school project, I stayed up fixing it while he slept. He got the A. I got a polite nod at dinner. That was balance in their eyes. There was one place where the scales tipped differently, my grandmother Margaret's room. It always smelled of lavender and old paper, the kind that whispered when she folded it. Her bedside lamp cast a warm gold over everything, her glasses, her notebooks, the small wooden box she kept on the table. When she motioned me in, it felt like stepping out of the Hale house and into a world that actually saw me. One evening near the end, she asked me to sit. Her voice was thin but sharp at the edges. "Victoria, pay attention now." She opened the wooden box carefully, as if the hinges themselves held a secret. Inside was a silver key, heavy and cool, carved with a pattern I'd never seen. She placed it in my palm and closed my fingers around it, her hand trembling slightly. "They will try to take everything someday," she said, "but I've prepared for that. This key is part of the plan. You'll know when it's time." I didn't understand then. I told her she was worrying too much, that the family wasn't like that. She looked at me with an expression I was too young to read, a mixture of love, sadness, and certainty. The kind you only get from someone who has lived long enough to stop pretending. After she passed, the house changed. My father remarried. The rooms grew colder, brighter, arranged more for show than living. Marcus gained a new audience in Claudia, who repeated often how promising he was. I slipped into the background, the dependable daughter, the one who would be fine on her own. Supportive, quiet, predictable. They built a new family portrait. I wasn't in it, but I stayed polite. I stayed useful. I stayed exactly what they needed me to be, so they wouldn't notice what I was learning, simply by watching them, their patterns, their excuses, the way they tipped their hand when they wanted something. And that was the day I understood there was a place for me in this family. Not at the table, but just outside of it where I could see everything clearly. The dining room felt colder when I returned to it in memory glass surfaces, white linen, everything arranged too precisely as if warmth itself had been edited out. My parents sat at the center of the long table, Marcus and Claudia opposite them. They looked like a portrait someone had staged, each wearing the kind of smile that didn't need joy to hold its shape. My father set his fork down with a soft, metallic tap. He didn't look at me when he spoke. "The money is gone, Victoria." My mother finished the sentence for him, her voice light, almost cheerful. "We've transferred everything to Marcus's family. It just makes sense. You should have been more supportive of our new family." Supportive. New family. The words brushed past me like cold air from an open door. Marcus didn't gloat openly. He didn't have to. His posture set enough, elbow resting on his chair chin lifted slightly, as if he were already accepting a role he didn't earn. Claudia reached over and straightened the corner of a napkin, smoothing it with unnecessary care, a gesture meant to soften the blow but only sharpening it. No one asked what I thought. No one paused to consider whether it was theirs to take. They spoke of my grandmother as if her plans were an inconvenience, as if her life's work could be refiled under family adjustments. I kept my hands in my lap, fingers curled lightly to hide the tremor beneath. My phone buzzed once under the napkin, an email, a notification, a warning, but I didn't reach for it. I watched the scene in front of me, instead, the synchronized confidence of people who believed the matter was settled. My father finally glanced up, briefly, just long enough to confirm I wasn't going to make a scene. My mother's smile softened, satisfied with her own phrasing. "We just need you to understand," she said. "Marcus has responsibilities now. A child, a future to protect." As if I had none. I lifted my glass, the water shifting quietly inside. When I set it down, the sound was sharper than I intended. Every face tightened just enough to betray a flicker of doubt. "That's interesting," I said. 3 words: calm, even, unmoving. My mother blinked. My father swallowed. Marcus straightened. They thought it was acceptance. They didn't know it was the moment everything shifted. The parking garage was silent, except for the cooling click of my engine. I sat there with my hands on the wheel, not gripping it, just holding it lightly, as if the smallest pressure might fracture something I wasn't ready to see yet. The overhead lights flickered in that slow, humming way that made everything feel suspended between 2 moments. I didn't cry. I didn't even flinch. I just breathed once steady, then opened the small compartment beneath the dashboard and took out the velvet box I kept there for no reason I could ever explain. Until now. Inside, nestled in a strip of faded fabric, was the silver key my grandmother had pressed into my hand years ago. Cold, ornate, too heavy for something so small. I turned it over in my palm. The carved pattern caught the light like a secret trying to speak. "Someday they'll show you exactly who they are," she had said, "and when they do, you'll know what to do." I didn't know then. Now I did. I placed the key on the passenger seat and stared at it until the shape settled into my mind like a compass turning north. Then I picked up my phone, still buzzing with the notification from dinner, and opened the email. A courtesy alert. A failed attempt. A reminder that someone in that room had been busy long before tonight's performance. I powered the phone off. Silence settled like dust. At dawn, I called the studio I worked for and told them I had a family emergency. My voice didn't shake. I didn't give details. I didn't need to. Then I dialed the number on the card Mr. Keller once gave me back when my grandmother introduced us with a subtle, cryptic, "He handles things." He answered on the second ring, voice, calm, measured. "Ms. Hale, I've been expecting you." Within an hour, I was in the downtown branch office, a quiet glass room above the city. The receptionist guided me in without asking questions. They never ask questions here. That was the comfort and the warning. "Mr. Keller greeted me with a nod, sliding a folder across the table with precise movements. "Your grandmother's instructions activated immediately after the attempted access," he said. "She prepared well." I opened the folder. Audit notices, frozen accounts, automatic injunctions, traces of every transfer attempt routed directly back to the same handful of names. My parents, Marcus, Claudia. Their signatures not forged this time, scrawled over forms they didn't realize were monitored. But the most significant document lay beneath the rest. A diagram of Whitford Holdings, the quiet force behind Hale Industries. My grandmother's signature. A clause highlighted in ink: in the event of unauthorized access attempts, all controlling rights pass to Victoria Hale without exception. My breath didn't catch. My pulse didn't jump. Everything simply aligned. For the rest of the morning, we moved through steps like clockwork. I filed the necessary authorizations, signed the letters, approved the internal audit, reviewed the trust structures, verified the sealed deposits linked to the silver key. Every action quiet, precise, simple. Control wasn't loud. It was procedural. By afternoon, the first fractures reached the surface. Claudia's charity luncheon, an event she'd been talking about for months, fell apart in the middle of the restaurant when every card she carried was declined. A friend recorded the moment her smile faltered, then vanished entirely. The clip made its way into a private circle of socialites within minutes. Nina called shortly after, whispering through the chaos at Hale Industries. There are auditors everywhere. Frozen accounts. Confusion. Your father looks lost. Lost. The word didn't bring satisfaction, just clarity. I spent the evening at my kitchen table organizing the documents into neat stacks. The silver key lay beside them, grounding everything in one continuous line from my grandmother's hands to mine. I wasn't planning vengeance. I wasn't planning a coup. I was executing a system already set in motion long before any of them realized they'd walked into it. When I finished the final set of signatures, I closed the folder, slid it into my bag, and turned off the kitchen light. The apartment fell into a quiet that wasn't empty. It was intentional. For the first time in years, the silence belonged to me. And tomorrow, they would understand exactly what that meant. Before moving on, if this cold burn style of storytelling keeps you hooked, you can quietly support it. Tap subscribe, hit like, and stay close. The next part changes everything. They arrived at Hale Industries just before noon, all of them packed into a single rental car that didn't match their clothes or the way they carried themselves. I watched from the top floor as the sedan pulled into the loading zone and idled. No one stepped out immediately. The delay alone told me everything I needed to know. When the elevator doors finally opened, they walked in, as a cluster. My father first, shoulders rounded. My mother close behind, smoothing the strap of her purse again and again. Claudia's lipstick was smudged at one corner. Marcus kept checking his phone, swiping up in disbelief each time the same error flashed across the screen. Lauren clutched the baby tighter, eyes down. They hesitated at the threshold of the office. Not mine yet, not officially. But the nameplate on the door had already been removed. It was a bare rectangle, now a gap where authority used to sit. I didn't stand when they entered. "Please," I said, motioning to the row of chairs across from my desk. They obeyed, every movement stiff, careful. Mr. Keller sat at the side table, silent, hands folded. A witness, nothing more. My father cleared his throat. "Victoria, there must be some misunderstanding. The account's my company." I slid the first document toward him. "Let's begin. Frozen corporate assets. Automatic injunctions. Unauthorized transfer attempts flagged by 3 separate systems. Every page stamped with a time, a date, and a digital trail that pointed only one direction. Their direction." My father's face drained as he read. My mother reached for his arm and stopped halfway, her hand hovering in the air before retreating to her lap. Marcus leaned forward, jaw tight. "This is some kind of mistake. You can't just—" I placed another paper in front of him. "Your access to the trust was suspended the moment you attempted to reassign ownership. You signed the request yourself." His mouth snapped shut. Claudia's voice came out thin. "We were told your father said the inheritance—" "It wasn't yours to touch," I said. Grandmother structured everything to activate the moment someone tried. I turned a final page toward them, Whitford Holdings, the silent majority shareholder of Hale Industries. My grandmother's signature at the bottom. The clause transferring full authority to me after any fraudulent activity. The room went still in a way no silence could explain. Something had collapsed. Something they assumed would always hold. My father finally looked up at me. "Victoria, please." "We made a mistake." Mistake. A clean word. A word that asked to erase damage with a breath. I kept my voice level. "You attempted to take what wasn't yours. You ignored her will. And you did it believing I wouldn't notice." My mother whispered, "We thought you'd understand. Marcus has a family. He needs—" I didn't let her finish. "There are 2 options." Mr. Keller slid the prepared forms across the table, the soft scrape of paper louder than any accusation. "Option 1, I said. I proceed with full charges. Fraud, misappropriation, attempted illegal transfer. You will lose everything. And yes, there will be legal consequences." Claudia inhaled sharply, her hand flying to her mouth. "Option 2, I continued. You sign these statements. Full admission. No claims to the estate, now or ever. My father resigns from Hale Industries effective immediately. And you all sign a non-disclosure agreement." No one spoke. No one argued. Their power had evaporated hours ago. Marcus grabbed the pen first, not with courage, but with the desperation of someone who finally understood the depth of the hole he'd dug. He signed hard, the ink scoring the page. Claudia followed, eyes glossy, her signature small and trembling. Lauren held the baby close and looked away. My mother was last. She stared at me for a long time, as if searching for the version of me who would have once fixed the mess they created. She didn't find her. She signed. My father didn't look at his own signature when he added it to the page. He just set the pen down gently, as if sudden movements might shatter something fragile between us. Nothing fragile remained when Mr. Keller collected the forms. The meeting was over in a way that felt absolute. They rose slowly, a quiet procession of people stripped of the certainty they once wore like armor. At the doorway, my father paused. "How long?" he asked softly. "Has this been in motion?" I met his eyes. "Since the day you assumed I wouldn't have a place in this family." He nodded a small defeated movement, then walked away, following the others down the hall. And just like that, the room belonged entirely to me. After they left, the office felt impossibly still, as if their absence had pulled the air back into its proper shape. The city stretched beyond the glass walls, hundreds of windows, catching the late afternoon light, each one blinking, like a quiet reminder that life continued, indifferent to everything that had happened in this room. I stayed seated for a moment, letting the silence settle. Not the silence they used to keep me in line. This was different. This one answered to me. The silver key lay on the desk beside the signed agreements, its weight unchanged, its meaning entirely transformed. I picked it up and felt the cool metal press into my palm. It no longer felt like a warning. It felt like a handover. My grandmother's photograph stood at the corner of the desk, angled slightly toward me. The smile she wore in it wasn't triumphant, it was knowing, as if she'd expected this exact scene, this exact quiet, long before any of us arrived here. I opened the proposal folder for the Margaret Whitford Foundation, the one that had waited untouched through every storm. Pages outlined support for women rebuilding after financial or familial betrayal, grants legal guidance, safe transitions. A blueprint for something cleaner than revenge, something steadier than anger. I read each section slowly, the way people read names carved into stone, with intention, with recognition. When I finished, I closed the folder, smoothing my hand over the cover once. Outside, the lights of the city began to glow, nothing dramatic, just the world exhaling into evening. I stood, locked the office, and took one last look at the room that had held decades of someone else's authority. Now it held mine. I used to think silence was the space where they placed me to keep me small. Now I know it's the place I chose to grow. The fortune they tried to steal was never the one that mattered. What I kept was the part they never understood, the calm that follows truth, the boundary that doesn't need permission, the quiet that answers to no one. When I walked out of that building, I didn't take the company or the legacy. I took back myself. If you want more stories told in this cold, steady voice, stay subscribed and keep listening.